I'm a clinician by heart, and my heart will always be for the patient and the people, and my head's for business. I always say, like, if you could help, even with speaking, when I speak to a group, people are like, oh, well, you're speaking, you're not out, seeing 8 patients today. I'm like, yeah, but I have whether it's 50 people in the room or 300 or whatever, I said, if I just got a couple people in that room and something resonated with them, now they're going back and let's just say 5, and they're seeing 8 patients a day. I just impacted 40 patients a day. I want to make sure that my hygienists are be able to work in a place that they're happy, they feel respected, and they're supported, and then they get to be able to use, the tools and the technology and things that they need to love their jobs every day.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of 2 hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of 2 hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of 2 Hygienists, an Endeavor Business Media production. This is episode number 395, and I am your host, Andrew Johnston. Thank you so much for letting us be a part of your day. This is going to be a great episode, folks. I am sure that it's just because I love talking with our guests so much, and it's been a really long time in the making, so I am really excited for this episode. We have on today the Val Dangler, and in this show, we talk a lot about her journey, which is, to me, something that I've always been kind of interested in why do people get where they are, and how do they do that, and what decision points do they have in their life that kind of drove them one way or another. But I also know from going over stats of like, what shows do we have that are super successful versus other types of episodes, I know that highlighting people and just showcasing like, hey, this is a person that's really awesome, I know that they don't do as well as our science-y learning type episodes, but I think you'll find that this one's a little bit different. So please at least give it a try, because the difference is what Val showcases is really what it is to be a hygienist. Someone who isn't there for scraping of a tooth, but someone who is there that's constantly getting better, evolving and learning, sharing what she learns. We talk a lot about mentoring and being a mentee and a mentor, and advocating for her patients. She has done it all almost in the dental office. And I think in this day and age, when hygienists are looking for options outside of clinical dentistry, she's going to show us how you can keep a foot in dental while still looking for that next thing, building yourself up to the next thing. She's absolutely inspirational, and I am glad to know her. And I know that you all enjoy this episode also. Next week, we have on Trisha Husbands, and she's going to talk a lot about something that's been going on in the social media groups lately, and that is working abroad. She worked abroad in Oman for 2 years. And I've known several hygienists that have gone overseas to work in different countries. Some of them actually have been on the show before, but I think it's interesting to hear kind of the experiences of someone who was there for maybe a longer term. So she was there for 2 years. And, again, kind of along that theme of we're all looking to change it up just a little bit. We want to see what's out there in life. There's a lot of job opportunities that are happening. We've seen lots in the Caribbean, or we've seen some in Europe. We've seen now Middle East. So keeping our job options open, that's kind of what we're trying to showcase and highlight in this episode. So make sure you don't miss that one. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you come back for it. And then before we get into the interview with Val, I just want to say thank you so much to Lisa, who wrote just the sweetest email about the tip episode that we had last Friday. And if you haven't listened to that one yet, make sure you go back and listen to it. It's on providing oral care for the foster care children. It shouldn't be surprising, I think, about how many things that hygienists get involved in, right? Because we have this episode with Val, and then reading now that Lisa has had an interesting past. She actually worked with children who came from a really kind of sad and scary circumstance, and was just that pillar of kindness and compassion to them when they came in. She was showing that, hey, there's something else out there in the world other than what you're seeing every day. And it really means a lot to me, and I think gives me hope that we have people in our profession that have demonstrated what it is to be a hygienist. And I love that we're getting back to the kindness and compassion, because that really is truly what a hygienist is. So I'm hopeful that through a culmination of all of these things, we're showcasing how we can get back on track, get our profession back on track, quit being so concerned about the money, production. While that does have a place in it, we are still human beings treating other human beings. And so I really love like this next kind of grouping of episodes. And I love the email that I got. Thank you so much again, Lisa. She did say that she would like more episodes like that in the future. I'll see what I can do, see who I can find that's, speaking on these topics and that can deliver a really good message for you all. And hopefully we'll get that on here pretty quick. If anyone else is out there that wants to send me suggestions on topics or people to have on the show, I'm always open. Please don't be shy. Send me a message, andrew@ataleoftwohygienists.com. I would really appreciate that. And that is all from me for this intro. Thank you so much for listening. And please enjoy this conversation with Val Dangler.
A Tale of Two Hygienists.
Welcome, everyone, into the interview portion of the podcast. I'm very excited to be here with Val Dangler. I feel like you are someone I've looked up to for a couple of years now. I've been in awe of how much you know about insurances, how much you know about the DSO space, and whether or not this episode ever gets aired, who knows, but I'm happy to have you on. Thanks for being here.
Andrew, it's my pleasure. You know that. We've been trying to do this for how long now, buddy?
I know,
I'm so glad.
Or whatever.
We're
Yeah.
always crossing paths through these conferences, so I'm so glad we're here finally making it happen.
I know. But tell me, okay, first of all, oh my gosh, there's a picture or video. Jesus, it's the worst. Tell me, what is the driving force right now for you? Because you've been around, you've done the things. I feel like it's really hard. Well, actually, maybe start there. What have you done? Tell our listeners where you've been.
Gosh, where do I start?
I know there's so many.
As a baby hygienist to now?
As a baby hygienist.
Okay. So career dentistry, almost 30 years now, right? So started as I knew I wanted to get into healthcare. I always wanted to help people. Mm-hmm. I was a young mom, and so I was looking into the nursing track or dental hygiene. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up going the dental hygiene track. Really, gosh, I don't know how deep you want me to get, but here we go.
Let's do it.
Here's why I got into dentistry. Let's go. This is why I got in the dentist track. I was that kid that went to the dentist who was 6 years old. I had a tooth pulled. I was a Medicaid child, and the $5 carpule was too expensive. So I can tell you to that day, kicking the lights, having been held down, and that was a really bad experience, right?
Yeah.
As a young adult, watching my dad from experienced dental pain and, hang on to the armrests of the chairs as he's knuckle gripping it because just didn't have the money to go to the dentist. So when that time came for me, I knew, A, I wanted to get in healthcare. B, that's where I went. And I did the dental track. And so I knew, I wanted to, while I was taking my prereqs for hygiene, I wanted to learn a little bit about dentistry, make sure it was the right place for me. So I was a dental assistant for a little while. I quickly was promoted as an office manager. I really took charge of training myself back then on the job as an assistant. I went to the local community college. I checked out dental books and actually taught myself tooth numbers and things like that. Yeah.
Wow.
And then I was working at the front desk, and that's where I started to learn about insurance and looking at the EOBs and really understanding codes.
We've never had this conversation before.
It
makes a lot more sense now.
Now does it make sense?
Keep going. Yes,
okay.
Keep going though.
Okay. So that's where I got really nerdy about insurance and codes and things, and how do we help maximize the best benefits for the patients. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, then that journey ended when I finally got my prereqs done and went to hygiene school. So then I practiced clinical hygiene for 6 days a week. Did that for some time, went back to school, got my bachelor's, started teaching. So I practiced part-time, and then I was an educator, an adjunct faculty for a while. And then is when, that was probably 7 years into doing adjunct. Mm-hmm. I was being recruited by a DSO. And back then it was like the devil, right? Like everyone. Well,
and that's perception of it.
I guess it's perception, right?
You still went, right? So
I went because that's Val. Val's like, well, wait a minute. Val makes her own decisions. Like, I have to check this out. That's right. I gotta see what this is all about.
Yeah.
And it was a very small percentage of the, of practices back then. It was under 10%.
Yeah.
So I was recruited, and it was really a great opportunity because they were looking for somebody who, A, was an educator because they knew that these hygienists needed to be mentored, right? Mm-hmm. And then B, that did understand. They loved the fact that I was an office manager, and I did understand codes, and I did understand the business side of dentistry too, and how to operate a practice. And so that's really where that that career portion for me launched is during that time. And we built a great team. I loved it. I think I employed 15 of my students at that time. And we just built a great team. We grew a great community. And the only reason I left, my now ex-husband, but my husband at the time, he got a job transfer. And so we moved across the country. And that's how I ended up in Atlanta, which is now, 13 years ago. So, but since then, I have had the pleasure of, working in the DSO space and working with other DSOs. I've done consulting for the last 8 years, and so they bring me on.
Consulting with DSOs or consulting with private practice?
Private practice and DSOs,
okay.
Yeah. So I've had more so the emerging groups. I've had some of the larger names that have needed special projects on training and development, others that have brought me in to do some consulting and working with, the emergence groups more specifically because they didn't have their processes, systems in place, training in place, that kind of thing. So so that's kind of where that is. And then, again, there's other portions in that career where I took a break and, did sales for a little bit. I worked with our friends at Philips Sonicare for a little while, and I wanted to wear that hat because I didn't wear that hat yet. Did that for a little while, and then I got back. I missed it. I got back into education, speaking, and then the operations side of the clinical operations side, I should say, of the DSO space.
Okay, let's define that, because I was just going to ask you about, do you like clinical or operations? And now you're like, no, it's clinical operations.
I love them both.
So
that's why.
Let's define what that means first, and then why do you love what you love?
I'll tell you. So I'm a clinician by heart, and my heart will always be for the patient and the people, and my head's for business.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like, a lot of us clinicians would never do the operations, right? Because we don't like the numbers so much. We don't like, even though a lot of our hygienists do know basic metrics, but we're not looking at P&Ls. We're not looking at saving that 1/10 of a cent, but then multiplying by 1,000 a day, right? We're not looking at those types of numbers or problem solving in that kind of way. It takes us, I think, a special mind to want to love operations. I've been asked just since I've been here, hey, would you ever consider operations? I'm like, no, I don't think so. I don't think so.
It is, it is, you're always on. That's the other thing with operations, for the job, when you think about the job, when we're just doing clinical hygiene, we come in, we take care of our patients, once in a while, we'll stay after and make some follow-up calls, things like that.
Sure.
But when you're done, you're done.
Yeah.
You're checking out. Operations is a different animal. Your email's on, your phone, your texts are on. So there's just a different level of responsibility.
You don't feel like there's a way to have that? Well, it wouldn't be 9 to 5 because you have obviously stuff that you have to do after business closes. But is there a way to have a better balance in operations?
Oh, there's a way to have a balance in everything when it's mindset.
No, is there really a way though? I've never seen it done in any of the DSOs.
And I'll be honest,
you've never done it. So.
I've never done it. And Andrew, I don't know that I'll ever do it because it's not Val. No, but it's just not Val. Like Val's been, I grew up young, I've been working my whole life. So I don't know anything different.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So when you say it takes us back, people, certain people are just, our DNA, we're built certain ways. And so I love to work. Of course I want to take my R&R. We all do. We need it. We need to refresh. And I always say when we take that step back, it really sets us up for our next steps forward, right? So because we're going in clear-headed and refreshed, and we all need it. So we don't get that burnout, which is so prevalent, as you know, in not even just our industry.
Gosh, I think we've all felt
healthcare,
it, though, right?
Yes.
And it's been in multiple areas of my particular career as well. It's like, okay, even clinical, you get burnout. Even, even part-time, even probably as a faculty member, you're going to feel burnout at some point no matter what.
So, yes, I believe we have to take time to, we definitely do need to take the time to rest.
Talk to me about mentorship, about people that maybe not people if you don't want to name names, but maybe messages or things that have really been meaningful in your coming up, and then what you're trying to pass on to the next group.
Gosh.
Oh, you don't like mentorship. I saw that. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm thinking. My head was actually a thought of joy.
Yeah.
Because when you said that, somebody immediately came to my mind. And I remember when she was a new grad, right out of school, and this was back when I lived in Arizona. And I know she'll be listening to this. She'll know exactly who she is. But I'm so proud of her because I've seen her grow in her career. And again, she gave me some pushback. I mean, Andrew, you've been in this role before. You know, sometimes hygienists, they're like, well, wait, are you just asking for numbers? I'm like, no, this is about patient care. Let's look at this together. Let's look at these x-rays. Let's sit down and look at this chart and let's walk through this together, right? Just like I did when I was an instructor, right? Like, let's sit down and talk about this. And so she's like, okay, I can see that. And, she ended up being one of my just top hygienists, and just, always being somebody who was present at our meetings and just such a great attitude. And I moved across country. She ended up moving across country. We ended up working together again.
Nice.
And this was when I was on the operations side with another organization and was a hygienist there. And then, she always wanted more. She ended up wanting more. And she used to always say, Val's my mentor, Val's my mentor. I'm like, no, we're just peers. But it really always resonated with me because I see her now. And this girl, can I say badass on this podcast?
Of course you can.
She's a badass.
Only about her,
right?
though. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I am like, wow, like I knew her, she was a baby hygienist, and like the resistance I got, and then to watch her grow and to be a part of that. And we've did a lot of great things together, but like, she's just so great. And she's like a C-suite now.
Wow.
Yeah. For a company that we might all know, it's almost as big as Amazon. I'll just say that.
Yikes.
Okay.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yes. And she's a hygienist, and I get tears when I think about her because I'm so proud of her. And so it's those stories, right? When you talk about your mentees and why you love mentorship. For me, gosh, just mentoring, it doesn't have to get that big. Like she's that big. For me, it's just having people love their jobs.
So let me ask though. So I feel like mentorship can kind of be one of two things. One, it's forced upon you because that's the position that you're in. You are director, you're a coach, whatever, and that's your job. And then there's those other ones that really intentionally seek out opportunities to help other people. Which boat do you find yourself in more?
Oh gosh, I both, right? Because for the job, it's something we have to do. We have to do because we have to, there's a standard of care that we should all abide to. We all set, at graduation and set our pledge, right? And we get into the real world, and that doesn't always happen. Some of that goes away, and so we want to make sure that we're abiding by, what our standards are. Not even the best practices, our standards, right? Like these are our standards of care. So there's that piece. But then, yes, there are those that are seeking more. They're seeking that mentorship. They want to be better at their jobs. I will take those any day.
They're hungry. They want it.
They're hungry.
Yeah.
Yes, and those are the ones that just like, it hits you in the gut, and you're like, I have to help this person. I really want to help them, achieve what it is that they want to achieve. Because I always say, like, if you could help, even with speaking, when I speak to a group, people are like, oh, well, you're speaking, you're not out, seeing 8 patients today. I'm like, yeah, but I have whether it's 50 people in the room or 300 or whatever. I said, if I just got a couple people in that room and something resonated with them, now they're going back, and let's just say 5. And they're seeing 8 patients a day. I just impacted 40 patients a day. Yeah. Not my 8 I typically see, right?
Ripple effect thing, right?
Thank you.
Yeah,
yes. Yeah. And that to me is what really inspires me, like through education, through mentorship, through, everything that we do. So
I love that you love it that much. I feel like I'm a little bit faulty on that one because I am almost too selective, right? If you don't want it, if you're not in for it, I'm going to still tell you the things that I'm bound to tell you so I can try and get some production out of you or whatever my job is. But I will not take you under my wing. I will not be that person that goes the extra mile to force this upon you, because too many times it has backfired on me where, I end up being, Andrew's a jerk or whatever. I don't know what the thing could be, but it's like I'm trying to force my mentorship onto them and they don't want it. So
and
it's
at
hard.
the end of the day, that's where you have to figure out, like, I will give everybody the benefit of the doubt, but you also know, Andrew, you find out the ones that like, no, we don't want it, and then sometimes it's just like, okay, I'm going to go work on the 7s or the 8s and make them 10s.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't need to mess around with the 1s and the 2s because that's a mindset. I'm not going to change your mindset. I'm not going to change that behavior anytime soon.
Exactly.
But I do have the stories too, and I can tell you a story of another hygienist that when I first got into a role as, a hygiene director way back when, and I was in my early 30s then. And she was a very seasoned hygienist in her 50s. And I remember when I watched the practice, and she was like, oh, what are you going to teach me? I've been doing this longer than you've been alive. And crossing her hands and like just always giving me pushback. And I don't know what happened, but, I knew I had to, again, I wasn't pressing on her. I had to build that relationship with her first. And I had to build trust.
Yeah.
And I had to show her, look, I'm here this is for the patient, and I'm here to support you, and I want you to be happy in your role as a hygienist. So I got to know her and understand what was important to her. She ended up being one of my best hygienists. She used to tell me, oh my gosh, she used to joke about it. I remember how much I used to give you a hard time. So she ended up being one of my top hygienists, where at that time I got tickets for a contest I did for my top performers, and we got to go to the Arizona Diamondbacks and the dugout, right? And so the organization, and I was like, okay, great, I'm going to bring my top 10 hygienists, and they get to bring a guest. Well, she brought her sister, and her sister took me to the side at that event and said, I just want to let you know you changed my sister's life.
Oh.
And I'm going to cry right now.
I know.
And I said, oh my gosh, what do you mean? And she's like, no, you don't understand. She was about to walk away from her job. She didn't like dental hygiene anymore. Oh my gosh, I'm emotional on your podcast. And she goes, I don't know what you did, but my sister is a whole new person. And those are the moments when sometimes you get those people that just give you pushback. But then again, there's that diamond in the rough that sometimes you get a win with. And that's why I'm sitting here, I guess, with tears in my eyes, because it makes me happy for what I do, right?
Tell me, let's pivot. Let's completely go to a different thing. And so when you and I first connected, I think, probably our first conversation was at Greater New York a couple years back. And you were doing something very interesting with insurance that I didn't understand at the time. Still don't understand all that much right now. Can you go through what company you had and what you're doing with it?
Yeah. So during COVID, as we all had a lot of downtime, okay, so let me back up. So my history, as I shared, in the operation side of thing, and then as a consultant, when I go in and I work with dental teams, a lot of times people will say, hey, I need you to come fix my hygienist.
Sure.
Fix hygiene, right? So yes, there's a component to that. We talked about the standard of care, making sure that we're clinically sound, right? However, you could have a hygienist who's 100% clinically sound, but the operations piece is not there, and it's not supporting the metrics, right? So when you dig into that, you look at, a lot of times I would find, was our insurance reimbursements that were so low. And when I was an office manager 30 years ago, I would go into practices and I'd look at their fee schedules, and I would see fee schedules that were paying less than we got paid 30 years ago on some of the same plans. Because we took all the plans.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Obviously, inflation's up, COVID, cost of PPE, supplies. Oh, and let's talk about a thing right now that if you're a business owner as a dentist, they're struggling with the cost of wages, right?
Yep.
So there's that inflation, but yet the only people who are not coming to the table are the insurance companies. So they're charging the consumer more, which is our patients, the consumer. They're charging them more because things go up, right?
Right.
Like everything.
Sure.
And then the dentist is being charged more for all these other things, but the fee schedules never went up. So the only person that wins in that case is the insurance. So that's where kind of my passion came around that. I had the downtime, and I had some colleagues that they did insurance negotiations for dentists that were in these PPO contracts, and they helped to try to renegotiate. And so they came to me and they said, Val, look, we know that you work in, consulting, and you work with a lot of startups, and we have to turn away a lot of times on the startups because we're on the negotiation side. So we actually launched a company that helped doctors with startups. So if they have a de novo or if it's a doctor who's doing an acquisition, basically they have a new TIN. It's a new practice. And then we can go in and negotiate, and we get them their fee schedules from the very beginning. Nice. That way, when they go into their practice, they're set up for success. Yeah. And so that's where we partner with them in doing, we get the doctors credentialed, and we do our best to get them a higher paying fee schedule. And then that way, they're, especially when you're in a startup and you're, a de novo will say, when you don't even have patients, right? You're not even acquiring the patients. And so that first year is critical to the business. So we want to make sure we can help them get every dollar that they can for the
every
services
dollar
they do.
Absolutely matters for them.
Yeah.
Every penny matters for them at that point.
Yes.
So what were some of the success stories? Like what would they be paying, and then what could you potentially get them up to?
Let's see. We had a client in California that worked with, she was an associate at quite a few different practices before she finally was ready to buy her own. So when she bought her own, we went over the fee schedule with her, what we were able to get. And she was like, oh my gosh, Val. And she's in California. This is what's so sad. California, we know the cost of living in California.
Yeah.
She's like, I've never gotten over $1,000 on a crown. I was like, what? And she's like, I've never gotten it. She's like, sign me up. I've never gotten it. I was like, you got to be kidding. She's like, oh no, we're like in 700 over here for a crown. Exactly.
Really?
And I'm like, this is not that long ago, Andrew, So those are some of the success stories I hear. And so when the team that I have and they go over this with the doctors are like, yeah, I've been an associate here. I worked in another office here, and if it works, it works, And if it's for some reason the schedule that we weren't able to get, it doesn't work, it's no big deal too. We do that. It's a complimentary service that we do. And then, obviously if there's a value, that can result in thousands of dollars. And when I talk about just like in hygiene, if we're able to move the metric on that $7, let's say $7 increase, I mean, just for one hygienist, that's almost $18,000 a year. That's just one line item. So now look at exams, x-rays, sealants, scaling, roof planning,
products,
all the doctor's procedures. Think about crowns. If that's $7 and that's $18,000, like if you move a couple $100 just on a crown, we're talking like $70,000, $80,000 just in crowns.
It's incredible.
So that's the impact that having a good fee schedule can make.
And are you still currently doing that?
So I'm still a partner in the business. Yeah, but no.
But hygiene just keeps reeling you back in. You can't quit it.
I know. I can't. But look, at the end of the day, why did I do it? It's because I wanted help. I wanted to make a difference in our industry. So
what are your goals? What's the, obviously you have a big task ahead of you right in the immediate future. Let's fast forward a few years. You've grown, the business side to be where you want it to be. And then what?
For the insurance side or just for me in general?
Just for you.
Oh, gosh. I took on a big job recently. I think so I became vice president of hygiene for a DSO, and we're in 15 states, and I've just been here, I think, just a little over 4 months now, so still in the early stages, laying the foundation, really getting ready to train and develop, and my goal is really just to help this organization right now so the hygienists within the organization are supported. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at building a great team, and I just want to bring in the best practices that we can, and I'm huge. I mean, I speak on innovations and technology, right? So if I could wave a magic wand, that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that my hygienists are be able to work in a place that they're happy, they feel respected, and they're supported, and then they get to be able to use, the tools and the technology and things that they need to love their jobs every day. You know this, Andrew. You talk to hygienists all day long. There's a lot of people leaving the field.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I talk to hygienists and they're like, yeah, I'm leaving. I need to get out of the op. I get up. But I'm going to say most of them, if you sit and have the conversation with them and you start peeling the onion layers back, okay, with the tears, the onions, and you get to the core, you find out that they actually love being a hygienist. They're just in the wrong environment.
Yep. I agree.
Okay. Yeah. So we have people that are fleeing their careers, saying how it's horrible and they don't want to do hygiene anymore. They want to get out of the op. But then it's like, wait a minute, but you love being a hygienist.
Yeah.
So why are you leaving?
It's the culture and the environment. Always.
It's how they've been disrespected. It's the culture, it's the environment. So those are the things we need to fix.
You're right.
Let's get you back to loving your career again. Because patients need you, communities need you. Like, we have a shortage of hygienists. Like, I'm concerned for the populations. Yeah. Certain populations and communities that we don't have hygienists.
Yeah. I'm really proud to know you.
Aww.
I think that you're amazing. I think that you've done pretty much everything that I've ever thought of that hygiene could be, that dentistry could be, that the career could be for a dental hygienist. I feel like a lot of our listeners are probably going to want to reach out to you also. What's the best way for them to contact you? Is it social media? Is it email? What do you think?
I mean, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. My Instagram is Valerie, Valerie _RDH. And that does not mean real dumb human. It means we're really delivering healthcare because we're a bunch of badasses. And, but my email, valdentsolutions@gmail.com.
Awesome.
Yep. And if you want to, reach out to me too about, the great things we're looking to do with the organization, reach out to me and I'll get you my work email, and I'd love to talk.
Love it. Thanks for being on.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Andrew. We finally did it, brother.
We did it.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.